Hello everybody and welcome to another JetSim flight video. Hey, I know it's been a long time since we've had an update video, I think about 2 weeks now, but there's been a pretty good reason for that. We as in my family, we are moving to a new house, which means that I had to start packing up the sim and start packing up the garage and all the tools and stuff that are being used to make the sim. So I've been kind of busy doing that instead of doing other sim stuff. So anyway, I wanted to just share with you guys a part of the sim that I don't really show off very often, because I think it's important to show parts of the sim that aren't just all finished and done up. I think it's interesting to see the process, and I think that that's something that you guys really enjoy as well, is kind of the process of building a sim. I think that that's what I find most interesting about all the other builders videos out there, is that it's the process that they're going through. So here it is. This is the sim from the outside, the side that I very rarely show in any videos. I may show you tiny little glimpses of it, but this is what it kind of looks like. It's just a bunch of wood panels on the outside, and the whole frame is pretty much made out of wood. It sits on some 2x8 inch or 2x12s, excuse me, on the bottom, and then it has some little 3 or 4 inch rubber wheels that it can be rolled around on, and those lock. But I kind of wanted to just show you some of the little bits and pieces of the sim on this side that I don't really show you guys very often. So I want to start with this little thing, and this is something that I've shown you guys before. These are the little dimmer modules for the backlighting, and here you can actually see this is the potentiometer for the dimmer, and it's on the lighting panel on the front side of the MIP. And here we have all the power wires coming in and then going out. These ones are the ones that are coming in. This is the source power, the positive and negative, and this goes actually to and I'm not sure we're going to be able to see it in here, but somewhere deep inside of there's like a little distribution panel that those two wires connect to, and then splits that power off into all the little 2-pin jumpers. Now, I wanted to show you this as well. This is just a little single LED panel that has on the one side here, let's see if I can get it to actually focus. There we go. And on the other side, there's a resistor and this little 2-pin connector, and then it mounts on this little riser. And this actually mounts right here to the back of this panel, and this is actually the backlighting for this panel right here. Now, this may not be my final product and how I do it in the end, but for now, it's a good little solution. But yeah, so inside of there's a whole bunch of wires, all the wiring for the mode control panel, the radio panels, and the nav panel, as well as those underside lights that I put in. Those are all there. And as we come down to the back side here, this is part that you guys don't really ever get to see. Here is the back of the radio panel, the captain's side, which is not finished. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to make it a functional radio panel or whether I'm just going to make it static like the first officer's side. This is actually the 12-volt power for the primary flight display, the PFD, for the captain's side, and these are actually the wires for the buttons that are on that PFD for the barometric pressure and the radio altimeter. So that's what that is. And then here we just have one monitor, which is both of the captain's main panels, the PFD and the MFD. So one monitor for both panels behind there. And it's just kind of mounted with some little wood blocks and things like that to kind of keep it in place and stuff like that. I do try to keep cable organization a high priority in most of the sim. But some of these cables and stuff are a little short for where I'm running them to now. Like this is running to the up to the old mode control panel that I had from my from the original one-seater flight sim, Embraer flight sim. So so for right now, I'm still using that one because I haven't finished doing the wiring harnesses for the new one. But yeah, and then that takes me out to here. If we step back a little bit, I'm going to try to get some of it in the frame here as much as I can. I might have to scoot over here a little bit. So now you can kind of see some of the backside here. I have, you know, the little arch here, and then you can see the banding where I put the, which is going to essentially be the mount for the actual plexiglass windows that I'll put in at some point. Hopefully soon. I got to get all the inside and outside trim done first. But back here, what I want to show you is this panel. And you may remember that I had the 2.1 channel amplifier up on the overhead before. Well, I had a problem with getting all the wires after I started rerouting them and kind of trying to organize all the wires. I had problems getting them to reach properly. So, and I also wanted to be able to have all the stuff that I might need to adjust in a very centralized location. So I think this whole back here is going to be kind of that place for me. All the power, all the main boards and all that stuff is going to all be back here somewhere. So so anyway, I moved that 2.1 channel stereo amplifier to here, and that's of course, you know, controlling our two overhead, the right and left, the captains and first officers overhead speakers, and it's also controlling two subs, one sub underneath each seat. And there's the captain's sub right there, and you can see the first officer sub right there underneath the seats, which does great things for the realism as far as like when you're landing and taking off and feeling and hearing the engine start up and things like that. You know, the Embraer is not a very big jet, but certainly you can feel that in the seat when it does start up. And then this little guy here, this is that 12-volt power supply. I think I've showed you that before, and it wires in with all the red and black here. That the red is actually the 12-volt positive, and the blacks are all the negatives. And that connects in over here to this little outlet, this plug with a switch, and that's how we bring the power in from 120 volts down to the 12 volts. So as you can see, this has a grate on it, so that's where it actually how it dissipates the heat from the conversion from 120 to 12. So yeah, and so, you know, and then on the first officer side, again, same thing. One monitor covers both the PFD and MFD for the first officer side as well. This one's a VGA, and I believe the captain side is also a VGA. So they're both VGA connected. And if I remember correctly, I think, yeah, and then we go to the ECAS one, which is inside here. And this is, again, just one monitor, turned sideways, and sorry about the cables getting in the way there, that's one of the audio cables. But yeah, this is a monitor for the ECAS, and it's just turned sideways so that it fits in there properly. This one is actually a little bit big, and it's actually causing a problem right now for me to actually put the landing gear panel and the mechanism in properly, so I'm going to have to find a smaller one, which shouldn't be too terribly hard because it's just a single monitor, and I could honestly do with a really, really small monitor, probably like a 12-inch or something, even smaller than that, maybe even 10. But I've also been contemplating, you know, how I'm doing the monitors in general, and possibly switching to going with a Raspberry Pi on the back of a bunch of 10-inch LCD monitors, one for each of the panels themselves. So, you know, when I estimated the cost, you know, it's about $70 plus about $30 for each little monitor. When I estimated that out, it was about the same as buying one computer that could handle all of those monitors. So basically each one would get its own little Raspberry Pi running Linux and running the XHSI software, and that would do the whole thing. So you have, you know, 5 of those across here, and they would only take up that tiny little amount of space that the Raspberry Pi takes up and that the monitor itself takes up, which is great. And it also means that I can flush mount the monitor right up against the edge of the main instrument panel itself. So that makes for pretty good looking views as well. Back to the power a little bit. So directly here in front, the center of the camera, in front of my finger there, that's actually the ground terminal block for the lower part of the system, and here is the 12 volt positive, the actual live current. So that has a little protector on it to keep you from basically shocking yourself with 12 volt power, DC power. So that's going to really hurt. But yeah, so that wires up and up into the main instrument panel, the overhang and stuff like that. And then we got a bunch of cables here where the 12 volt and the speakers kind of come up to the overhead, those two overhead speakers, the captain's and first officer side, and then the ground here as well. And then obviously I have the USB cable and those cables from the PFD coming up here to that old mode control panel, which I have in a temporary little thing here so that I can autopilot the sim. But I also wanted to show you guys kind of the backside of the overhead here from kind of a different angle. And as you can see, there's still a lot of stuff that's just not painted black yet, which, and there's obviously no cover or anything like that on the backside of the overhead or most of the sim for the most part. So here's the backside of the overhead. As you can see, I do have two Leo Bodner BBI 32s in here right now. And I have those mounted to a little piece of plexiglass, which right now is actually not mounted to the overhead structure just yet, but that will probably happen once I get the sim moved. So it'll be kind of elevated up off of the overhead and over the top of all the buttons and stuff like that, so that whenever I swing the overhead down, all the boards and everything will be right there, and the USB cables will have a really good, easy place to be plugged into. And again, I have the ground and the positive for the 12 volt power up here as well to power all the backlighting. So, and then I have, some of these, I don't even have connected yet. Like this is a group here that I don't have connected, and I believe that these are the bus switches. I don't have those connected yet, but these are all things that basically all the small little things that need to be done on the sim that I haven't quite had the time to do, or haven't been as important as getting some of the other pieces put together or figuring those pieces out. So, but yeah, and then up there you can see the all the back sides of all the fuse panels for the fuse holders for the fuse panel. Excuse me. And I don't have actually anything wired into those fuse panels yet, but I do want to get them wired in at some point, because I do kind of want to protect some of these circuits and stuff like that, because one, I don't want to blow out any Bodner boards. Those are, they're about $45-50 a pop, so definitely don't want to have any issues there. But then we come up on the other side here, and you can see I have quite a few things that just, have holes where there's not a switch, and buttons and things like that that aren't wired yet. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, the Embraer jet that I'm flying in X-Plane doesn't actually model all of the systems, unfortunately, and I'm not sure what to do about that just yet. I'm not sure whether I'm going to have to, talk to the person who actually created it and see if I can go in and modify that, since it is open source. I'm hoping that I can get the permission to basically modify it, expand it, and essentially do kind of like a Zibo mod, like Zibo did with the default 737. So basically I just want to kind of make some modifications to it, make it actually model as many of the systems as possible, so that essentially I can kind of hook up all these buttons, all the switches at some point. And I'm also not sure if I'm going to stick with the Leo Bodner boards. For two reasons. One, they don't have any outputs, so I can't light up a switch or something like that. If the GPU comes on, I can't really light that up through these boards specifically. As a workaround for that, though, I am going to use a little Arduino Mega board to kind of control that using MobiFlight. I haven't tested that yet, but I assume that it's going to work. It may prove me wrong in the end. Let's hope not. anyway, guys, I think that's the majority of what I have. Oh, one last thing. I kind of wanted to give a shout out to Michael Schultz. He's another builder. He's actually building 737 flight simulator. But I really liked his idea of using cardboard cutouts to essentially do all the pieces that were going to be built on a sim. So I actually started doing that, and I was cleaning out the garage a little bit, and I found the cutouts that I used for the overhead there. So you can see there's the real thing, and there's the cardboard cutout, and so I used those, as a result of seeing his video. So Michael, thanks so much for the inspiration, I guess, so to speak, on that, and for making some great videos yourself. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and liking the videos and leaving your comments. I'm really loving it. It's great, and it's a lot of fun building this sim, and I hope to keep building other sims as well. You can actually see I got a little Cessna with G1000 that I still haven't quite done any work on yet. I did get a bunch of parts for it, but hopefully we'll see some videos for that soon. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button below and subscribe if you haven't already as well. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.